the kitchen pickleball bag. This was probably one of the most highly anticipated pickleball bag drops ever because this bag promises to be what every other pickleball bag isn't. This is supposed to be the top of the line, the best you can get in the industry. So I'm going to open it up and I'm going to tell you everything I know about it so far and give you guys some first impressions. Can't believe it's finally here. I've been waiting on this bag drop for several months now. It's just kind of surreal to finally hold it. Anyways, so when you open your black box, you finally get your cork caddy, fully wrapped in this plastic packaging. But let's open this. Oh yes. This already feels like what the people have been waiting for. You can already feel the PU leather finishing on the outside. Already feels super sleek. I know that this finishing on the outside is fairly scratch resistant and water resistant. So that's already a huge step up from any other pickleball bags out there. And this is cool. So I'll talk about it during all of the features that I'm running through, but there's a little magnet here, like a very small symbol right up here on the side of the bag, and it's to remind you that not only is this, which is a place to place your balls in the sides of the bag, not only is this magnetic, but also several of the other features in the bag are magnetic as well. So a couple of things I'm noticing sort of right off the bat. The branding right here, I love this. I know that this bag is sort of meant to be not just a pickleball bag, but also supposed to sort of double as an everyday bag. And a lot of times the pickleball logos and stuff like that can be either very large or it's very evident that it's pickleball. And I know there's sort of like a stigma around using pickleball things as everyday carry items. I would have to ask somebody what this logo means. And I think it looks very professional. The black on black is super sleek. It's held on, it's stitched on really well. So that's not coming off, even though you can see right here that it's sort of protruding off the bag. It's not stitched straight onto it. It's like a badge, but this is held on pretty firmly. So I'm loving that so far. Another thing I'm noticing quickly here is there are these little straps hanging off the front here. And one thing to know about this bag right off the bat is that the shoe compartment, there isn't one internally directly attached to the bag. There's a separate shoe box component that you need to buy that's relatively inexpensive. And I'm pretty sure this is where it hangs off from. But my concern was that if you don't have that component, does this look too sport equipment-y to use as an everyday bag? But honestly, it kind of gives off the vibe of like your average like Jan Sport or North Face or like Timbuk2 brand bags that you see a lot of people using in college and for work and stuff like that. So props to them. I think that's a pretty nice touch. Another thing is with these zippers. So just looking at the bag straight on, unless you see the tassels here on the ends, you can't really tell where the zippers are. It looks like when it's zipped up, that the actual zipper itself is kind of protected and coated here. This is probably really good for the water resistant capabilities of the bag and stuff like that. But I mean, that's really cool. That's really nice. I'm also checking out the magnetic components on the outside. The first two that I remembered right off the bat were the ball compartment right here. This is held magnetically in place, and so is the compartment for water bottles, which is right here, and it magnetically opens like this and closes like that. And personally, when I hear things are held onto the outside or kind of kept together with magnets, I'm really concerned with the magnets wearing down over time or sort of being very weak, and so these components end up popping open constantly. But just listen to that. That's a very solid snap right there. Felt something very similar with the water bottle component, so I can tell that these magnets are strong enough to actually remain closed when you're daily using the bag. Now, the last thing that sticks out to me from the outside of the bag is the bottom. So this is a much different material than the PU leather that's on the rest of the bag. I don't remember off the top of my head what it is, but this feels very coarse and rough and kind of durable. If I had to describe it, it's like it's like putting a pickleball court, like that cement, that texture, onto the bottom of the bag. So I can imagine that if you ever needed to rest the bag on the bottom, that this is going to stay a lot more durable and scratch a lot less than if they had sort of continued the PU leather all the way around the sides. And it's not just on the very, very bottom. They're very conscious of the fact that bags tip and move sideways a little bit, and maybe they're off-centered. And so this material, this sort of coarse protective material, goes up a little bit on the sides of the bag as well. So that is really strong attention to detail. I was getting ready to open the bag, and then right before I did, I noticed that these are YKK zippers on the bag. Now, I was doing some research on other bags, which is the only reason I know about this, but I did see a Reddit thread and a couple of other places saying that like YKK zippers are considered the best. Like these are the top of the line best zippers that you can get on any bag product. So that is really awesome. A really great touch from Kitchen. I'm sure that was expensive. And so I'm keeping track of these little things when I'm thinking about justifying the $300 price tag. So it's definitely a step in the positive direction for what Kitchen has sort of done with this. Let's open this here, see what we got on the inside. And okay, so I'm going to get to this in a second, but this, okay. I thought that the storage space in this was really small for a second. I was about to be a little embarrassed about how I was going to have to go throughout the rest of this review, but then I realized my shoe bag was inside the court caddy. So the shoe bag itself, the bag itself is really light. Also has PU leather, has the minimalistic Kitchen sort of logo badge on the outside. This looks fairly large. Like this looks like it could fit. I wear a size 12. It looks like my shoes could very comfortably fit in this. And so you're probably putting some very large shoe sizes in this if you need. It also looks like it's ventilated on the top, which is great. That's another thing I was worried about is like, you have this cube and from online, it kind of looks like a lunchbox. So I'm wondering how, you put your stinky shoes in here. Or honestly, with a cube like this, you might even put some like clothes in here if you don't have your shoes on you. Post gym, throw your clothes in here. How is it going to smell with being completely covered in leather? Turns out it's not covered in leather. There's ventilation on the top. Oh, okay. I kind of like this this sort of like textured design. It's not completely monotone gray on the inside. That's kind of interesting. Other than that, I will say, besides obviously the attention to detail with what they'll actually be putting in here, mainly the ventilation here, which does feel pretty sturdy. I feel like you'd have to push pretty hard and extend this to a pretty good extent to actually rip it, which is nice. But other than that, the inside definitely feels and resembles like your average lunchbox type bag. No, but this is going to come up later in the video when I talk about, where it attaches and why they've chosen to go for specifically a box as opposed to attaching it to the inside of the bag. Staying on the topic of zippers here, so these are YKK zippers like I mentioned, but you noticed on the court caddy itself that the zippers were kind of hidden. It's because the PU leather type texture was kind of overlapping onto the zippers, which is why you couldn't really see where they were until you unzip the bag. But on the shoebox, you can see the zippers pretty clearly. And it's because that PU texture isn't continuing over the zipper itself. So I would assume for durability's sake that that's totally fine, because again, YKK zippers considered some of the best out there, if not the best. But I will say that because that PU leather doesn't go over that attachment there, my guess is that for water resistance, it might not be quite up to spec, which could be a concern if you're attaching the box onto the outside, but I will confirm that in a second. Wait, I totally just realized, the ventilation in the top is literally like it's mesh, so it's a bunch of tiny holes. So regardless of whether or not the water resistance extends to the zippers themselves, I will say that, this box itself is not water resistant. So you leave this on the outside of your bag, it starts to rain. If your mesh is facing upward, it seems pretty likely that water would get in. So yeah, I would be cautious of that. Probably I'll see if this is possible to orient it downwards, although I do also know that it's possible to put the box and store it in your bag itself. There's enough room for that, which is great, but not always logistically possible or the most convenient. So that's just something to look out for. But yeah, so this is the inside of the bag itself, if you can see that there. I know from a width perspective, it doesn't look that big. And to be honest, it's not in comparison to what I assumed. But I do know that the total volume of the bag is 30 liters, which is a pretty good amount of space. And it's pretty evident by how deep the bag is. It's a lot deeper than it looks like on camera. And I'll get into exactly what can fit into this in a little bit. But yeah, I think this is pretty well segmented. And another thing is that it's not an insane amount of room. It's not a huge, just open compartment like you'll see in a lot of bags, which means that there is sort of a lot more opportunities for organization here. With this bag, I also have this glasses attachment, and something that I hope that comes through here is, so the glasses attachment is here on the inside. Look at how that doesn't go anywhere. This is actually held in place by these two sort of buttons that slide in magnetically into little parts of the bag. I'll show a close-up of these in a second, but that is very nice. And these magnets are just as durable as the magnets on the outside. And this is a very, very sturdy case. Let's take a look at the inside real quick. A good zipper there. And yeah, we've got this very nice sort of gray felt material here on the inside. This seems sufficiently big enough for most protective eyewear that I see out there. I can't imagine why you would have an issue with fitting any type of glasses in here, to be honest. I'm even gonna check out with my real glasses here. Yeah, these fit. These are wide enough for my glasses at the minimum, and obviously they're tall enough. So yeah, this is pretty sick. And you know, this minimal branding of the kitchen logo here, I actually don't think it's exactly, the whole thing itself. So the whole thing itself is that kitchen logo. That's really nice. That's a nice touch. I really, really actually like how that looks. So another thing that's definitely coming across with the bag is the amount of opportunities for small storage space. So just on the inside of the bag, there's one zipper right under the glasses compartment, and it's made of plastic, and it has that more water-resistant feeling zipper like is present on the outside of the bag. So I would assume that this is where you'd put anything that you don't want to get wet for sure, like straight on the inside of the bag, maybe like your phone, or anything that might be wet in and of itself, and you don't want it sort of soaking into the material on the inside of the bag, especially because you have the sort of gray felt right here, right where the glasses case is. So you'd put like a wet towel or anything else, your little wristbands, drop those in there. And then there's one more zipper. This is sort of like a mesh zipper though, that's a little bit further into the bag, but still right where the bag sort of bends to open. It's literally right here. And this is a mesh compartment. I'd probably put small things in here, like let's say your lead tape or your overgrips, or just something else that maybe doesn't need to get wet but doesn't need the full sort of plastic protection treatment. And that's really nice because there's actually no pockets all the way deep inside here. Like these pockets are all fairly accessible just by opening the bag and just sticking your hand right here and grabbing it. Like, that's perfect. Another really cool feature that I learned about these is that there's actually, if you look here on the back, there's nothing conspicuous, nothing really to note here. But then you see this little tassel right here. This is actually a secret sort of pocket here where you can put things that are maybe a little bit more valuable. Maybe your phone or your keys go in here so that, you know, they don't get stolen. It's very, very easy to somebody trying to sort of pilfer this bag. Not that I do that or know inside the mind of someone who would, but suspended disbelief. You get the idea. And you'll notice these are pretty small. There's two of them. There's one higher up towards the middle, and then one a little bit lower right down here. And that's great because that means that these pockets are a little bit longer, go a little bit deeper, and they're not sort of running into each other. So you're not having to reach all the way down here. And if someone is getting too frustrated to pilfer your bag and decides to take the whole thing, at least you have this little section right here where you can sort of put your business card, your name, your phone number, etc. if it gets lost or anything like that. My mind went straight to stealing, but losing this bag is equally as possible as getting stolen. So, I mean, that's great that that's there. I'm going to keep coming back to the zippers for a second because I know this is something that they emphasized with the build construction, but I'll notice the tassels right here on these smaller zippers and on the zippers on the inside of the bag are actually different from the ones that are out here on the front with the main component. And these ones, these small ones that are again present inside the bag as well and present here on the secret zippers seem very durable. They're coated in something that feels very similar to the TPU leather. I'm sure it's just some sort of plastic coating here, but this feels durable and it has this sort of like nylon cord attachment that most people are very used to with zippers. This feels very solid, like this would not tear off very quickly. Versus the zippers that are over here on the outside, these, especially these tassels right here, these are very thin. I'm not sure what these are made of, but it feels more like a woven material. What I do like is there's sort of like a phantom sort of logo on there. That is really sick, and that's present in a lot of different parts of the bag. They're a really nice touch, but I do not have as much confidence in these tassels as I do the ones for the smaller zippers, which doesn't make a ton of sense to me because this zipper is going to be operated more on a daily basis. These ones as well. This also has the same sort of less durable, in my opinion, type of zipper up here. So I would have loved to see, I love, again, the Phantom logo, and maybe this is just a limitation of production, but I would have liked to see a more durable tassel on these compartments that I'm clearly going to be using more than any of the others. Now, coming to the back here, there's these two handles here. I'm assuming that this one is to sort of carry the bag, pick it up quickly and move it, versus this one is more so for like hanging on a hook. I'm not completely sold on needing both of these instead of just having one that does both. This handle feels very sturdy and honestly it could maybe go on a hook, unless it's a very thin hook, very shallow. Then this one obviously makes more sense, but this one does not feel nearly as sort of durable as this one does. But I'm not an expert in this. Maybe you do need them both, and it's not overly cluttered, so I'm not too mad about it, but just something for efficiency's sake that I feel like could have been combined. Now let's get to the shoulder straps. So one cool feature that I knew about this bag before I got it was that there's actually two hooks present here on the middle of the shoulder straps to hang the bag onto a fence, as opposed to using a hook all the way up here that might stretch the bag vertically. And now this is also really cool because I believe the intention behind the design was to have something where the hooks were at a level so that you could easily reach into your bag and grab things, as opposed to having the only hook be all the way up top, where your bag sort of sags all the way down when you put it on a fence. And when you have something really deep in the bag, you've got to gum all the way down and reach into it. This puts the bag at a little bit of a higher, more accessible level when it's on the fence, so that if you need to quickly reach in and grab something, it's a lot more accessible. And then the hooks themselves, I think, just tapping on them to feel. These hooks are metal, so these are obviously going to hold on very well, and they're attached to the bag through these TPU leather feeling sort of straps. So I also feel like regardless of a very large amount of weight that you can put into the bag, that this is probably not going to break. A little bit further down here, we've got this shoulder strap. Doesn't seem like anything too special going on here. Let me see this. This is pretty easy to clip off and clip back in. Has that nice click to it. I like that. The straps feel pretty adjustable. So something I did notice here is that there's little ribbed sections to the adjustment portion of the actual clip itself. So that means that when you clip it into one section, it's not going to overly slide in one direction or the other. I know a lot of other bags will have just one continuous sort of cord here, so that this could potentially slide up and down by several inches, whereas this is moving maybe half an inch max. And then you can probably see, let me see here, you can unclip this, take it out just like that, and then move it into another section if you have to, just depending on where you want it to fit onto your chest. So we've got another sort of Phantom Kitchen logo here that looks really nice. And then also the straps themselves, they feel very comfortable. Like, I don't want these to be too rigid so that they're digging into my body. I also don't want them to be too soft so that they're sort of, you know, flimsy like that. And then of course I want the portion of the straps that are actually going against my body to feel good. And this feels fairly uniform aside from the little stitching where you have these segments here and down further here, but it's very reminiscent of the mesh that's sort of on the shoebox and also inside some of the zipper compartments themselves. But this feels just right off the bat very comfortable. I also gotta say that the material on the actual portion where your back goes onto the backpack feels very nice as well. It feels material-wise the same as what's on the inside of the shoulder straps. And then these themselves, these little sort of cells here, feel very cushiony and comfortable. I can't imagine this being uncomfortable. Especially what I really was paying attention to was down here where the small of your back goes. It tends to be, especially on a bag like this, which can stand up on its own when you put it on the ground, which is a fantastic feature. I absolutely need that in a bag, and I think it's something that makes a good bag great. But I digress. Where the small of your back goes on a backpack that can stand on its own can feel uncomfortable and rigid because it tends to have sort of like a flat platform there. But they've put even a little bit of cushion there, a little extra rib, which I think sort of removes the part that goes on the ground here from your back and allows your back to fully just make contact with the actual backpack portion, the cushion itself. Unless you happen to have a very, very arched back, I can see this being pretty comfortable. So yeah, that's everything that I can tell about the bag just by looking at it. But there's a few things I want to test about the bag's capabilities before I'm done. I don't have to go into all the detailed specs about the bag right now. I might when I do my update video after I've actually used it for a week or two. But for the time being, I'm just going to link it in the description down below if you want to go read it. I certainly will be reading it. And yeah, after I'm done looking at sort of some of the capabilities of the bag from a pickleball perspective, I'm going to pack it for my day at work tomorrow, and I'm going to see how it does. So the first thing I'm going to look at is how many balls can actually fit in the ball compartment. So the actual tag on the outside says that this should be able to fit 3, but if I remember correctly from online, that it should be able to fit 4, but let's see right now. There is a 4th. And this actually does sit kind of nicely. It's like half in the pocket, but half sticking out, so that when I close this and I open it, I don't have to dig into the pocket for a ball, because I did feel like at this point I'm having to sort of fit my hand in a little bit more. And I have decently large, maybe fat even, hands. So this is a little difficult for me. If you have large hands, this might be a little difficult for you. But having this ball that sits right up here on the outside as the 4th ball, this is held in super securely. And you just pop it open and bam, you're ready to go. You've hung this on the fence, you just grab the ball at the side, and bam, you're set. I actually really like that. That gets an A+ approval. We all know what I do most frequently is obviously paddle reviews. So I'm going to see how many paddles I can actually fit into this bag. Now, it's not realistic in its entirety because I might be putting other smaller things into the compartments. Maybe I'll put my computer where the actual sleeve is in the bag, because it does have a protective sleeve just meant for your laptop. But I'm just going to see roughly how many paddles I can fit into the main compartment itself. So it looks to me like you can fit about 8 paddles in here somewhat comfortably. 8's kind of stretching a little bit, maybe 7 comfortably. I will say that with the actual specialized compartments themselves in here, I was having to kind of push the paddles in once I got to around 4 to 5 paddles at the end. I will say that most people aren't going to be carrying 4 to 5 paddles around with them, except for myself and probably other paddle reviewers. But in general, that was pretty simple to do. And to fit 8 in here, I carry 10 to 15 in my Mavericks Titan Tour 70 liter bag, which is just a behemoth of a bag. That is my daily use bag right now. And, you know, especially when I'm spin and serve testing primarily is when I'm carrying that many paddles. But for an average testing day, this is it's perfectly doable because I probably carry 4 to 5. Another thing I was really interested to see is with all of these handles coming really out to the edge of the bag, with the glasses compartment right here, obviously you just do it like this. This is getting blocked. So I was wondering how feasible it is to do this with this being in the way. But with this being a little bit sort of flexible in this way, with the glasses case like this, you can sort of push it up a little bit and lift it up and over these paddles. And this bag still zips relatively seamlessly. Just like that. So now the last thing that I'm going to look at is the feasibility of putting the shoebox on the outside. So I can tell immediately just from looking at the back, you have these sort of tassels here, like the little sort of hooks. And the bag itself actually has just these little straps in the front. So it looks like what's going to happen here is I'm going to have to undo these straps and then loop them through the loops on the bag. So on the box, I mean. So let's see how fast it takes to do that. Okay, so I did eventually get the cube onto the bag. I will say that just having the loops there and then having the straps run across the bag, it's not entirely intuitive where you want to loop the cube in terms of where you want it positioned to look on the back of the bag. So for example, do you want it all the way up here where it's covering that logo, or do you want it a little bit lower like this? It's not entirely intuitive where to put it. I will also say that with the ventilation going towards the bottom, like I said I was going to do before to sort of look at it from a water resistance perspective, the handle for the cube is down here on the bottom. So if I would have changed anything about the cube, it would have been to keep the ventilation there, maybe move the handle up here so that the ventilation still happens, but it doesn't subject whatever's in the cube to water. The straps themselves are also pretty thin and small, which is good from a design perspective. Overall, from this level of functionality, I mean, it holds the cube perfectly. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But I will say that they can be a little bit sort of finicky and kind of hard to mess with. So if you don't have great dexterity, then you're probably going to have a little bit of trouble navigating the small loops to put the cube on. But overall, I actually really, really like this idea for one key reason. When you have the shoe compartment as a part of the bag itself, it takes up so much space. It's not a problem for the Titan 70 liter from Mavericks because it's 70 liters. But your average pickleball bag takes up a lot of space from the shoes. Or if you place a bunch of stuff in it and you fill up the main compartment, then you've got no space to actually put your shoes in. So by having this compartment attached to the bag itself, not only is it still very accessible because I can just unzip the top as is and get my shoes out. Actually, it's probably even faster than doing it as attachment to the bag, but it also avoids the issue of crowding up all the space on the inside of the bag. I also say make sure that you tighten your straps when you're putting the cube on as much as possible. Otherwise, you get this kind of result with the cube kind of flailing around a little bit. But we're going to chalk that up to user error for now because, again, it's my first time doing it. Make sure to tighten the straps more next time. But overall, I think the thought and the functionality behind the cube is really, really good. I'm just getting nitpicky at this point. Overall, I'd say I'm really impressed with the kitchen cord caddy. I think that there's a lot of really, really great and intentional thought to the design features, things that are really kind of contoured toward the pickleball player's experience and meant to give you a more accessible and more convenient time using the bag on the court. So like I said earlier, I'm going to pack this bag up for my day at work tomorrow, and I'm going to daily use this not only for work, but also for pickleball play. And then in a week or two, I'm going to post an update video, and then we'll sort of start to sort out whether or not this bag is really worth $300. I will say the kitchen has already done something really well, which is that they've created a product that is so different and so tailored again to the pickleball player's experience, at least on paper and from a first look perspective, more than any other company has done so far. And so when you're talking about a price tag of $300, part of that definitely comes with the fact that you're dealing with something that is so unique and that nobody else is doing or really even touches right now. I'll also say I really enjoyed interacting with the guys at Kitchen, and I think their social media presence is great. So make sure you go follow them at Kitchen Pickleball on Instagram and YouTube with no I and no E. And they also have something called a 002 program as part of their company philosophy, which is them just using 2% of their profits to donate equipment to underserved pickleball communities. That's something really great to keep in mind. And again, company sentiment and design, attention to detail, and cost of materials, these are all things that make up for a certain portion of the cost in your mind as a consumer. And that's different for everybody. But in the end, for me and for you, what really comes down to with cost is the actual consumer experience. So make sure you like this video if you learned something about the cord caddy or you learned something in general about Kitchen and you enjoyed the video. And then make sure you subscribe in order to catch up with my update video in a couple of weeks after I've daily used the bag. This is a bit of a longer video. I apologize. I don't normally do unboxings, but there's so much going on with this bag that I just felt like I had to. So if you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching and for your support. The growth that I've experienced these last couple of months has been insane, and I can't thank all of you who are supporting me already enough. And yeah, I'm on the road to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of June. So make sure you subscribe to help me reach that goal. So I'll just say it again. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.